Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, which is Explore Yourselves, Banking, and General Knowledge, etc. Memoir of my banking journey by Mr. V.H. Ramakrishnan, retired General Manager of Bank of India. Episode number 42. The chapter A Banking Journey begins is completed and new chapter is My Days in Head Office. The link of earlier episodes is available in description. My Days in Head Office. A dream fulfilled. When I first visited head office in 1976, it had already moved from 70-80 Mahatma Gandhi Road to Express Towers. All the general managers were sitting on the 14th floor. The chairman and executive director were also on the same floor. In fact, for many years, the secretaries were sitting in a small cabin opposite to the cabin of the GM. In the late 80s, the cabins were revealed in such a way that one had to pass through the secretary to enter the cabin of GM. As a young officer, I used to think whether a day would come when I would also be sitting in a cabin on 14th floor. That dream was fulfilled. When I was transferred from Delhi to the head office, I think around March 1996, I handed over charge to Mr. Venu Gopalan as General Manager, Delhi, and moved to Mumbai. Mr. G. Kathuria, about whom I had written a lot in my series Delhi Chalo, was the chairman. CMD. He had told me that I would be taking over international department from Mr. S.B. Wagle, who was due for retirement. Mr. Wagle opened our joint venture bank in Indo-Zambia Bank as its first managing director. After he returned to India, the government of Zambia wanted his services as advisor to the president and he went on deputation. He returned in the 90s and after a term as general manager, Lachi, he was promoted as general manager and took charge of international department. I reported to the CMD in the morning. He directed me to go and sit with Mr. Wagli. The official letter posting me to international development came much later. I knew Mr. Wagle very well. I had spoken to him a couple of times when I was in Nigeria. He had also visited Delhi quite a few times during my tenure as ZM. A perfect gentleman, very pleasant. He was well respected by the board members. I was also to occupy the residence of Mr. Wagle. It was in Sahanaj building in Malabar Hills, a spacious two-bedroom flat. Mr. Karunanandan, who came from Indian Bank, was the executive director. Since he had also visited Delhi often, I knew him well. The first thing Mr. Wagle told me was about the parking lot in the office. There are only a few slots available in express towers. Many GMs had to get their car parked outside the building. The drivers were given pagers. Mobiles were yet to be introduced. You cannot talk on pager. You can send a message to the pager. So the driver would get a beep sound and would read the message and come and pick you up. Mr. Wagle told me that once he leaves, I should quietly occupy the lot allotted to him. I will come back to the issue later. Morning meetings. I had heard a lot about morning meetings at the chairman's cabin. In this context, I remember a lecture by Mr. Sambha Singh, who was a lecturer at NIBM. He said that the concept of morning meetings in nationalized banks in India was introduced by Mr. Prakash Tandon, the chairman of Punjab National Bank, in 1974. Mr. Tandon was a chartered accountant and was the first Indian chairman of Hindustan Lever Limited. Mr. Sampath said a few days after he took charge, Mr. Tandon sent a message to all the GMs to assemble in the boardroom at 9:45 a.m. The GMs were wondering why he had called the meeting. Next day morning, he entered the boardroom at 9:45. All the GMs were present. He sat down and did not say anything. Coffee was served. Tandon took out his nail cutter and started cutting his nails. There was total silence. After 10 minutes, he walked out, indicating that the meeting was over. Next day morning, also the same drama was repeated. On the third day, one of the GMs started talking, mentioning about an issue in his department. Mr. Tandon smiled and said that this was the purpose of the meeting and interactions with the top management. In our bank, the concept of morning meeting was introduced by Dr. R. Srinivasan. I was not lucky to participate since for the major part of his tenure I was in Nigeria. Besides, when I was in BY Fin, I was only an AGM, but I was told that he used to come sharp at 9:45 and important developments would be discussed. Coffee would be served, and at 10 the meeting would be over. Back to the story. I attended the morning meeting. We all sat in a semicircular setup. Mr. Kathuria took out a small pocket notebook in which he had noted down a few things. He mentioned one by one and the GMs would react. Fresh hot coffee in signing cups were served. In due course, I noticed that whenever Mr. Kathuria went for a tour, he would note down whatever requests that were made to him by the general managers and would take them up in the morning meetings. GMs on their own also used to raise some important issues. The meeting would get over before 10:15. I will write about the morning meetings of other CMDs in due course. Parking lot issue. Within 10 days of my reporting at head office, Mr. Wagle retired. He briefed me fully about the sensitive issues and also showed me the files in the cupboard dealing with such matters. Before leaving, he asked his driver to show the parking lot to my driver. In Delhi, I had an ambassador car, and now as GM, I had a non-air conditioned Fiat Padmini car. On my first day after taking charge, my car was parked in the parking lot occupied by Mr. Wagle. About an hour later, the chief manager of State Department came running to me. He said, "Sir, you have parked the car inside." In fact, another GM was waiting for this lot to fall vacant. I asked him which GM was waiting for the parking lot. He said it was Mr. Punjabi, name change, who was on deputations from another institutions. Then I asked the CM about the basis of allotment. He told me that it was on the basis of seniority. Then I told him to go and check from personal development about my seniority. I told him that I was GM even before Mr. Punjabi landed in our bank. Once the CM knew about the seniority, he went back satisfied. I thought the matter was over. No. Later in the afternoon, Mr. K.M. Mehratra, GM personnel, invited me to his room. He was a calm and cool person. He told me that Mr. Punjabi mentioned to him about the parking lot issue. I explained to him about my position. Then he mentioned that Mr. Punjabi was referring to floor seniority. That was a new concept. In any case, Mr. Mehratra told me that he would sort out the issue. The matter ended there. Initial blues. Like in any new job, I also had some difference about handling international department. Madhavan had returned from his New York assignment and was AGM Mumbai overseas branch. I spoke to him about this. The reason for my dividends was that I had never worked as an officer in foreign exchange department. He simplified the issue for me. He said that it was simply like a general manager's job since I was like general manager of foreign branches. Only difference was instead of rupees, the figures would be in foreign currency. That gave some consolation and confidence. But as usual, once I sat in the chair, my confidence level rose. Tailpiece. The famous Tandon Committee, which dealt with working capital finance by banks, was chaired by Prakash Tandon, referred to in earlier paragraph. The rumor which was floating in head office for the starting of morning meetings by Dr. Srinivasan was this. There was one general manager who was habitually late in coming to the office. He never used to come before 10:15 or 10:30, despite several hints by the chairman. Hence, the morning meeting concept was introduced to make him come on time, and it succeeded. My departments. When I entered my cabin on the second day after taking charge, I saw a signing board outside with my name and designations. I felt very happy and proud. I am not ashamed to say that every morning till retirement I used to look at the board for a second and thank God for making me to rise to that high position. Even though I was designated as GM International, I had one more department, that was Foreign Business Department, FBD. Both International and FBD were on 7th floor. Mr. Rohit Desai was the DGM in charge of the International Department. Desai retired as the Executive Director of Indian Overseas Bank. I knew him when he was AGM Planning Department. Desai was an all-rounder who could manage any assignment with ease. He was well known for his subtle humor. He could think independently and take a decision. He was supported by a strong team of officers. I recollect Both Alok Mishra, who later became CMD of Bank of India, and S. Raman, who became the CMD of Canara Bank, and now member SEBI, who were with me in Delhi, were chief managers, and another chief manager was D.K. Sharma, who later became a general manager. These chief managers were supported by a team of very good stalwarts like M.K. Hariharan, Khambate, Dalvi, Bhartak, who recently retired as a GM, and a few others whose names I cannot recall immediately. A.C. Mahajan was in charge of FBD. Mahajan became the CMD of Canara Bank and now is the chairman of the Government Council of Banking Codes and Standards of India, a RBI sponsored organization. He had returned from Nairobi where he was manager of the branch, the same post which I was holding in 1984. After returning to India, he had a stint at Kolkata overseas branch. His second officer was G. Narayanan, who needs no introduction. I had a secretary and messenger. The secretary was a Parsi lady called Hira. She was a very obedient and quiet lady, very systematic, but speed was not her forte. Executive lunch. I had visited the executive lunch room during my visits to head office from Delhi. Now I was going to be a regular participant. CMD, ED, general managers, and deputy general managers and assistant general managers were served lunch for which a nominal amount was deducted from our salary. There was one table reserved for the chairman and his guest, if any. But other GMs could also sit along with the chairman. In fact, it was another occasion when chairman and ED could mingle with other executives. After my retirement, I once went to head office. When I joined others for lunch, I did not find the chairman there. I was told that chairman used to have his lunch in his cabin. Again, after a few hours, I again went to the head office. This time I found but that the chairman and EDs were sitting separately in a room adjacent to the dining hall. No mingling with other executives. I felt sad at this practice. I remembered Mr. Dhaotre, who used to say that he was only first among the equals and used to mingle with all officers with ease. Even though the menu was mainly vegetarian, there used to be one non-veg item. Once in a while, they would serve fish. On those days, I used to avoid going to the dining hall because of the smell. Later on, when Mr. K.V. Krishnamurti took charge, he said only vegetarian items should be served and banned keeping any non-veg item. Head office is head office. My many general managers who moved to head office used to say that they would change the functioning of head office. They used to boast that since they were from the field, they would be sympathetic to the general managers. However, within a few days, their tone would change. The bureaucracy would transform them very fast. Now they would tell their GDMs, don't tell me all these stories. I was also a GDM. I had a taste of head office functioning in two matters. In Delhi, we used to have curtains for the car windows to prevent the sun hitting you. I told the state department to fix similar curtains in the car. Prompt came the reply that it was not the practice in Mumbai. I accepted the same. Those days we had only BSNL phones. There was a facility for wake up call in BSNL. You had to opt for the same. It would attract double the call charges. More than the alarm on a timepiece, this was very helpful. Whenever I had to travel, I found that this facility was not there on my phone. So I requested State Department to add this facility to my phone at the residence. Initially, the State Department protested, but I insisted. After about 3 or 4 days, Mr. S. Nagarajan, the senior most general manager, called me to his room and politely asked me whether I had requested for such facility. He showed me a note put up by the State Department calculating the charges for 365 days. I had to explain to Mr. Nagarajan that I never wanted a daily wake up call. It was only to be used once in a while. He understood that and approved the same. All the above incidents looked very funny to me and were indications of the way the departments were functioning. Kathuria's style of functioning. Whenever I greeted him good morning, he would respond heartily with a good morning. There would be an emphasis on good in a cheerful tone. Any hesitations in entering the cabin would vanish immediately. Readers should pardon me in repeating about the time management of Mr. Kathuria. I had written this in my series on time management. It would be better to read this now to know more about an excellent style of functioning of an executive. I had found during my head office days that amongst all the chairmen with whom I had worked, Mr. Kathuria was the best in time management. Mr. Kathuria would be in his seat by 9:30. Immediately, all the folders received from various departments after 4 p.m. on the previous day would be placed on his table. Sharp at 9:45, all the general managers would assemble in his room for the morning coffee meeting. The meeting would be over by about 10:15. He would give appointments to visitors only from 2 p.m. Until then he would keep himself free for all the executives to come, meet and discuss with him. It was like an open house. At 11 a.m., his secretary would send the bunch of folders received since morning. Individual folders would not be sent to him unless the matter was very urgent. At intervals of every hour, a bunch of files received by his secretary during the past 1 hour would go to him. He would keep on clearing the files in between the meetings with executives. Around 1:30, he would move to the executive lunchroom. From 2 p.m. onwards, the visitors would start coming in. He would keep on clearing the files between the gaps. The last appointment would be given by about 4:30 p.m. The last bunch of files would be sent inside at 4 p.m. All the files, folders received thereafter would be sent to the CMD only the next day. He would stay in the office until he had cleared the last file. Normally, he would leave by about 6 p.m. No files would be taken home. If any executive goes to meet him after 2 p.m., he would say, I have given you 4 hours in the morning. Why do you want to come in between when I am seeing the customers? So the matter had to be real urgent for us to go to him in the afternoon. Whenever the secretary told you on intercom that the chairman wanted you to come to his cabin, he would have butterflies in your stomach. He would always assume that something wrong would have happened for which would be receiving firing. But in the case of Mr. Kathuria, he had no such fear. He was always soft spoken. Even if you had taken a wrong decision according to him, he would suggest an alternative without ever losing his temper. He would logically tell you the reasons for differing from you and convince you. Mr. Kathuria would never waste his time in going over the proposal minutely. He would look at the name of the borrower and quickly go through the justifications. Papers would be cleared in no time. Tailpiece. In the send-off party to Mr. Wagle, Rohit Desai mentioned in a lighter vein, who says bank does not have proper placement policy. Both the outgoing GM and incoming GM share their birthday, which is 13th April. What more perfect fit than this can you find? Behind every successful executive, there is a secretary. Secretary plays an important role in making the official life of an executive very smooth. He has to anticipate and act. He has to remember 100 things. Has to remain cool and calm. He has to act with tact and discretion. J.N. Patil performed this role in an amazing manner. He was well trained by none other than Mr. Parulekar. When the latter was a GM, later when Mr. Dhautre was appointed as the CMD, Parulekar was reported to have suggested the name of Patil. When Mr. Kathuria succeeded Mr. Dhautre, he did not make any changes and Patil continued. The work of a secretary was to take care of appointments, receiving the phone calls, making travel arrangements, keep track of movement of files from and to the CMD. Patil was in Scale 4. The practice of appointing AGM DGM as executive secretary or head of CMD secretary started in 1998 when Mr. S. Rajagopal was appointed as the CMD. Mr. D. Krishnamurti was the first such executive secretary. His main function was to go through all the papers, going to the CMD and prepare a gist, really brief, knowing the mind of CMD. He could also list of possible queries. There were other officers in the secretariat to take care of appointments, travel arrangements, etc. Back to Patil. He was not burdened with the job of writing a gist on or queries, but he would keep good track of the files. He would personally receive the important customers and would see them off till the lift. If I told him to inform me when the CMD was free, he would remember and tell me. There was no need to remind him even once. Thus, he served as a good bridge between the GMs and the CMD. Meetings. Within a week after taking charge, I found myself as a member of different committees. Once again, I am going to repeat from my series on time management about my experience in this regard. At General Office Delhi, I used to commence all the meetings on time. When I landed at head office as general manager, I had a problem. On the second day itself, I found that I was a member of a committee of general managers One of my seniors was to be chaired the meeting. The notice for the meeting said it was commenced at 3 p.m. Sharp at 3 p.m. I entered the boardroom, which was the venue for the meeting. There was no one in the room. Even the lights were off. I checked the file again. I was at the right room, right date, right time. I switched on the lights and sat down. Around 10 minutes past, an officer entered the room. He was the coordinator for the committee. He had a shock seeing me sitting there all alone. He apologized and told me that he would call me when everyone was ready and suggested that I should wait in my cabin. I went back. Around 3:30, the officer came and informed me that they were all ready. I attended the meeting. The next day also same thing happened at a different meeting. I thought this was too much. So on the third day, I went at 3 p.m. sharp and took my seat. As usual, the coordinator officer came around 3:10 and informed me that it may take another 15 minutes for the meeting to commence. He also suggested that I should go back to my room and he would come and call me. I told him, your memo says the meeting is at 3 p.m. So I have come. I will not move from this seat and wait here only. He became a little panicky and ran here and there to get the other members to the room. That day the meeting commenced at 3:25 instead of 3:30. Once the word spread that I would be waiting at the appointed time, others started coming a little early. Then I became the chairman of a few committees. I would go at the right time. I would wait for 5 minutes for others to come. I would commence the meeting with whoever was available. I would not wait even for other general managers to come. I said they could join at their convenience. If the quorum was there, meetings would start. This message spread, and soon I had almost full attendance for my meetings, and they were never delayed by more than 5 minutes. Mrs. Hemlata Mohan, a brilliant officer who later took VRS and joined ING Bhyasa Bank. She is now a consultant on risk management who was a DGM at asset recovery meeting, told me once that whenever there was a meeting, her officers used to ask her whether it was VHR time or Bank of India time. My thanks to all the officers who took extra efforts to be on time. Sun never sets in Bank of India. In those days, we used to advertise that the sun never sets in Bank of India as we had branches in different time zones. When we start our work in Mumbai, our Japan branches would be about to close. When we close in Mumbai, New York would be ready to open the branch. Overseas visit. Posting at GM International was considered as a glamorous posting since there would be opportunities to visit various countries where we had branches. In a way, it was all illusion in those days, while a general manager had full freedom to visit the branches under his control. The GM International did not have that freedom. Somehow, the chairman, who were otherwise liberal, would not easily permit the GM to go abroad. One reason was that they themselves were keen to go abroad. Let us accept. The opportunity to go abroad often was one of the reasons for the competitions to get posted to Bank of India or Bank of Baroda as CMD. Since these days were the two banks with many branches abroad. In our bank, things changed when Mr. K.V. Krishnamurthy took charge as CMD. He introduced a practice of taking the GM along with him during foreign visits. I had mentioned earlier that Mr. Wagle opened the joint venture in Zambia. In his capacity as GM International, he was also a director of Indo-Zambia Bank. When he was about to retire, the Indo-Zambia Bank wanted to hold a farewell board meeting in Lusaka. The date was fixed, but when Mr. Wagle put up a note to the CMD, it was declined. Mr. Wagle was quite upset. The entire expenses were to be borne by Indo-Zambia Bank. He had to skip the meeting. When I was just 2 weeks old in the department, Mr. Enes Naik, Chief Executive of Singapore branch, phoned me and told me that he was sending me an invitation to visit Singapore to attend the Bankers Marathon. He said it was a big event and many bankers were coming from abroad. He said I could also get a first-hand knowledge about the branch. I also felt that Singapore being one of our high-income earning branches, it would help me a lot if I visit the branch. Nayak sent the invitation promptly and I put up a note to the CMD. It was duly recommended by the ED and was sent to the CMD in the afternoon. As usual, I went home by about 6 p.m. Next morning, I was waiting for the lift on the ground floor. Mr. Kathuria also walked in and stood by my side. I greeted him. After heartily responding to my greetings, he added, I have rejected your request to go to Singapore. I responded by saying that it was fine with me. He entered the lift and he added, "You see, it is not correct to go for a marathon. Let us wait for some time for a good opportunity." I just thanked him. I will be lying if I say that I was not disappointed, but it made me realize the ground reality. 3 weeks passed by. One morning, Mr. Katoria called me and introduced me to a customer at Singapore branch who was chatting with him. Mr. Katoria told me that the customer had brought an invitation for the CMD to attend the conference of the Indian diaspora to be held in Singapore the next month. The CMD said he would like me to go to Singapore for the conference on his behalf. He had directly approved me my trip on the letter brought by the customer. The customer was a person already known to the CMD and he was one of the members of the organizing committee for the event. A clarification. I am now writing the events during the chairmanship of Mr. Katuria. So whenever I mention CMD, it refers to Mr. Katuria. Tailpiece. I used to read the Financial Times newspaper published from London. In one regular column, they used to mention something in lighter vein. This is what the column said about CEOs. The three weaknesses of a CEO are to hear his own voice, to see his photographs published in the newspaper, and the secretary. Branches under my jurisdictions. In 1996, we are present in the following countries: UK Chief Executives Mr. A.I. Sheikh, France, Paris; USA CE Mrs. Ranjana Kumar, Japan CE Dr. Khare, Hong Kong CE Mr. Subramanian, Singapore CE Mr. N.S. Naik, Kenya CE Mr. S.S. Rao, Indonesia Representative Office, Joint Venture Indo-Zambia Bank. The last foreign branch was opened in New York in 1978. When I took charge of the department in 1996, I decided that before my tenure ends, I should open at least one more branch in another country. It was not easy in those days to get permissions from RBI to open a branch outside the country. During the course of this series, you would come to know about the many sleeps I had between the scarf and the leap. In the end, I almost succeeded. Of the above executives, Ranjana Kumar became the CMD of Indian Bank and then headed NABARD before taking up her assignment as Central Vigilance Commissioner. In those days, it was also ensured that the GM International was senior to all the chief executives posted abroad. I do not think this is being followed now. I was also a GM for 24 hours a day as I used to get calls even during late in the night or early in the morning. I also used to wake up in the sleeping executives if the matter was urgent. Once I had to wake up Ranjana Kumar when it was midnight in New York. She woke up and requested me to give her 5 minutes to prepare and have a cup of coffee so that she would be fully awake. Like Venugopal, Ranjana Kumar also joined in 1966, the same year I joined. Both of them were junior to me as they were in grade 2, but I came to know her well when she became the Zonal Manager of Madhya Pradesh. She would lead from the front and was also very good in public relations. More about her in due course. HO committee meetings. This committee met every week and was presided over by the CMD and is absent by the ED. In earlier days, this committee used to sanction credit proposals also. However, during my time, the committee dealt with matters other than credit. The main agenda was to review the business targets and achievements of the bank as well as of the zones. The general managers stationed in Mumbai were permanent invitees and invariably they would face the ire of the CMD directly for not making expected progress. Introductions of new schemes and various other matters like inter-branch reconciliations would come before this committee. DGMs and even AGMs would be attending this meeting. It gives them good exposure with the top management. This was also used as a forum to bid farewell to retiring executives. Board meetings. In Bank of India, the practice had been to ask all the general managers who had papers for board approval to present them at the board meeting. I was told that in some of the banks, the general managers would be called as and when their papers would come up for presentation. Until then, they would be waiting outside in the lounge. In Allied Bank of Nigeria, only the MD and EDs would present papers. Besides the directors, only company secretary would be present. It was like a monthly test for the general managers. In fact, I remember an incident when I was in BY Fin. One day, Mr. Didi Avari, general manager, rang me in the morning and wanted me to give him a leave to go to head office. We are staying in the same building, Diamond Court. When we are in the car, I started some conversations. He immediately requested me very politely to excuse him as he had to study for the board meeting. The meeting was scheduled to be held in the morning. He took out his thick file from his briefcase and started going through the papers like a schoolboy, doing last minute studies on the morning of the examinations. At that time, I found it very funny, but later on I realized the importance of being well prepared. One of my senior GMs once remarked that after the meeting, we felt relieved like the father of the bride after the wedding. In view of my past experience in Nigeria, I was not nervous when I attended the first meeting, but I was curious to see how the meeting was conducted. My system of preparation was like this. I used to go through the proposal and simultaneously prepare some bullet points. Then I would go through the bullet points to see whether all of them were required. I would eliminate a few and once again I would write by hand the final points. My memory was always better if I could write down. By God's grace, I did not have any problem with my proposals in the first meeting. All were cleared. In some of the proposals, before I could complete my points, the director would say that it was a good proposal and would ask me to take up the next one. One interesting thing I noticed was the crosstalk in the board meeting. In Nigeria, everyone would address only the chairman, and the chairman would direct the MDCD to answer the query. If there was any difference of opinion after one round of discussion, the chairman would say, "Gentlemen, we have discussed enough. As there is no consensus, let us put the vote." He would ask each and every director, including the EDs and MDs, whether they are for or against. Based on the majority, the decision would be taken. But in India, invariably it was by consensus. Dissent was very, very rare. Mr. Kathuria would intervene only when necessary. I want the readers to remember that when I attended the first meeting, the bank had not gone public. Government was the only shareholder. We had one director of the rank of Joint Secretary who directly represented the Government of India, another one nominated by the Reserve Bank of India, holding the rank of Chief General Manager. Then there were three or four nominated by the Government of India to represent different sectors. One representative from the Office Association, another representing the audit staff. I had heard about this incident in the first board meeting conducted by Mr. Kathuria. I was in Delhi at that time. There was one director, let us call him Girish, name change, who used to dominate. Mr. Kathuria placed an urgent proposal on the table. Girish protested rudely and said since no time had been given, it should be withdrawn. Mr. Kathuria responded and is reported to have said, as chairman, I have every right to place a proposal on table. We will make a presentation. This is a commercial organization and we need quick decisions. If you are not comfortable, you take the proposal home and get back to us within 2 days and with whatever clarifications you need. If others approve, we will just wait for 2 days to hear from you. All the other directors listened to the presentations and conveyed their approval. Greece was isolated. He was reported to have given his consent within 2 days. Many stories may follow in due course. Board secretary. It is another glamorous designation, but really a thankless job. Normally for an officer, there will be one or two bosses, but the board secretary would have all the directors as his bosses. He has to ensure that they are taken care of properly. He has to arrange for their tickets and hotel accommodations, select escort officers. Sometimes halfway through the meeting, one of the directors would call him and tell him that he has a headache and would ask for aspirin. Another would say his mobile phone has to be charged. Yet another would suddenly request for a change of his flight. Whenever board meetings were held outside Mumbai, he had to take care of their luggage on arrival. The directors would walk away after giving the luggage tags to the BS. I had seen Sudhir Rao collecting all the suitcases with the help of a local officers in Delhi and then carrying them to the hotel and distribute them to the respective directors. During the board meetings, we had to carefully listen to the entire proceedings and take notes. In addition to the decisions on the proposals, he would also be taking down various observations, suggestions by the board members for follow-up with the departments. Sudhir Rao used to maintain his cool and deal with the situations very tactfully. By sitting in the boardroom, he would get to know many confidential things, but nothing would come out of him. When he completed his term, he was rewarded with a posting as manager of Osaka branch, which he richly deserved. Tailpiece. In the meetings of the committees presided over by the GM, biscuits and coffee would be served. At HO committee meetings and board meetings, roasted cashew nuts and biscuits would be served with coffee or tea. If the board meetings are prolonged after 4 p.m., then hot pakoras or bhajias would be served. That reminds me of a joke. A young executive asked his colleague about the quickest way of reaching the top. The colleague told him, feed your boss with a lot of cashew nuts and he will kick the bucket early and you can occupy his position. I was told about this incident, which is reported to have happened during the tenure of Dr. R. Srinivasan. Those days, the directors were booked only by economy class. Now, most of the nationalized banks book them by business class. One director told Dr. R. Srinivasan that he was always accustomed to travel by business class and requested Dr. R. Srinivasan to instruct the board secretary to book him by business class in future. Dr. R. Srinivasan told him that would be done. Then he added coolly that the director should bear the difference between economy and business class. The director concerned never raised the topic again. The chapter My Days in Head Office is continuing. Thank you very much for your patience. Request for like, subscribe and share.